Good morning. Good morning. Let me see, make sure my everything is everything. Popping in here this morning because this week I had the opportunity to speak, present a session at the NCTM Conference, NCTE. It was a collaboration between math and reading. Let me make sure. Okay, there we are. A collaboration between the reading and math conference, which I was really excited about presenting because that's my jam. A lot of people don't know that I started my education career teaching first grade math. I mean, in first grade. So I was teaching all the subjects. I've taught first and second grade. So I actually know how to teach children how to read. So during this session, and I'm going to share some of the things from my session, and let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen with you all. So this is my slide deck from the session, but some of the concepts that I shared with um, the participants in my session is about the five components to reading. So what I did not know is that the science of reading until I started preparing for this session, the science of teaching reading is actually the five components of reading. Who knew that? I was floored when I found that out. So it was real interesting to see the connection between that. Um, didn't know that that was a thing. So they've basically taken research from 1997 and said, oh, now we're going to call it the science of teaching reading. But that's not, it's the same thing. So, getting back to my conference slide deck, the way that we connect math to reading is the fact that the vocabulary and comprehension are really, really big issues in mathematics. Our kids struggle with vocabulary, they struggle with the comprehension piece. And what I did in here is I connected it to the math. And I do that by implementing reciprocal teaching, which I didn't go in depth out, but these are some anchor charts that I use in my class. If you don't know much about reciprocal teaching has four main roles: the questioner, the predictor, the clarifier, and the summarizer. These are things that I use in my classroom for my students to get them talking about what am I going to predict. And just to keep things short, this is read, draw, write. Some people may know that I do have this as one of my courses to teach teachers how to support their struggling readers with problem solving. And this was something that I showed to the participants. You have to make your students thinking visible. In this actual example, I talked about, and I showed how my students had to create a T chart, write the prediction, which is what operation they think is they're going to use, and write why and predict with evidence. They had to use context clues, make text connections, predict, infer, and compare, etc. What this actually does, it helps you the teacher to become more efficient at helping your students with their thinking. I know generally when I speak at NCTM or conferences like this, I generally focus on the math. But one of the key things that teachers are missing in the math space is that reading has increasingly become an issue in the math classroom. And I'm not talking about decoding because I'm not asking you to be a reading teacher, especially secondary teachers. But you have to have some level of basic understanding as a math teacher how your students' reading levels are affecting their ability to solve more complex concepts. If you are not looking at your students' reading levels in 2024, then you're setting yourself up for a difficult year because that comprehension in math, which they call it content literacy, is analyzing, sequencing, visualizing, all of those things. I used a Padlet in my session to show how um, to get solicit input from the participants of how they were seeing math become an issue in their classroom. Like they were saying, some of the responses were, some of them didn't, the kids don't know how to create a plan. That is an ELA skill. It is to sequence and put those things in order. They do that in ELA. How can a math teacher take those comprehension skills and make sure that they're explicitly supporting the children in these with these skills? So one of the ways was thinking routines. I am a huge fan of thinking routines. This one I show See, Think, Wonder. It is the basic thinking routine that you can introduce in your classroom for your students. It helps with pictorial representations. The with multiplication, division models, because you have to notice and connect it to, well, what do you wonder? How can you connect this to what you've learned in math? How can you make a text connection with what you um, a text to self connection of how you can use this in the real world? Because what I think a lot of math teachers and even myself prior to really understanding, there are two routes in mathematics: what it looks like in the math world, how's it applied in the real world. So those are text to self connections. Those real world applications are text to self connections. And what I was telling them about this is it brings out what it makes kids really take a look at, what do they know about this cat being stuck in this cage. And it's real simple. Something that you can do to get the kids to use this See, Think, Wonder routine as an anchor to um, your math. And it can be done with that. They call them bar models or tape diagrams, because our children really struggle with deriving meaning from those actual models. And it's at the, when you have a model, that takes a lot of more, well, a lot more cognitive processing, because the kids have to take what they know and then come up with meaning to solve. Make no mistake, when there's not a lot of text and there's a picture, that is the highest level. It's higher than problem solving with text, because it's all on the child. The child has to say, well, I know this, I know that. But if they don't know anything, then they're 9 times out of 10, they're going to get the problem wrong. So let me stop sharing. So that was my wrap up. I really like the idea of this conference, and I hope that NCTM and NCTE actually continue this conference. I know it's the first time that they've done it, but I think it's an often overlooked topic about how reading is affecting math. This wasn't an issue, I want to say, at least 10, 15 years ago, but it definitely is an issue for our students and for teachers because the reading levels, from what I see as a teacher who used to teach reading, they're not getting any better. It seems like every year progressively worse. Not to say Greek gloom and doom, but the reading levels, just based on what we've seen with the national testing, they're not getting better, and they're not getting better across the board. It doesn't matter economic socioeconomic status or ethnicity. They're seeing a decline in the reading levels in every group. So, if that's not an indicator for math teachers to learn a little bit more about the comprehension and vocabulary and to collaborate at least with your ELA teachers and make sure that the conversation about reading and thinking, because reading is thinking, in your data digs is very, very important. So we're going to wrap today up, and I am going to be on my way back to Houston. And we'll see what the weather is like because the weather has been horrible in Houston. Rain, rain, rain. So we'll see if I can get back to Houston. So if you ever get a chance to attend the NCTM NCTE conference, I would highly, highly recommend that you do so. So, you all have a great day. And what day is it? Is it Thursday, Wednesday, um, Thursday? You all have a happy Thursday. Bye bye.